Hi, my name's Carrie. I played basketball at University of Delaware, and I graduated in 2003. I had a great experience playing basketball there. I came out in 2000. It was right after my freshman year. It was during the summer, and was welcomed back on the team by some of my teammates that were open, and I felt really validated by those people, and was able to be myself in front of those teammates. When I think about what I would have rather happened in my experience playing basketball at Delaware, when I think about my experience in college, the most salient thing is playing basketball. Obviously, I was there to get a degree and had a social life, but the biggest thing was my membership on the team, my friends on the team, and my experience and relationship with my coaches. And I think the thing that I lacked that I would want athletes now to have is a greater openness in conversation about who the athletes are off the court, in the dorms, in their relationships, with their friendships, and I feel like I didn't get that in my experience. I had a wonderful competitive experience. We were successful. I had awesome friends and teammates. But I think I would have benefited from having more inclusion of your relationship or your relationships or anything else that you may have been besides a basketball player on the team. It would have helped, just simple gestures of when mentioning boyfriends to say girlfriends, to have that language that would have perked my ears up, and it would have made me feel better about myself, because of the relationship and the reverence with which I viewed my coaches. I thought they were, I had a lot of respect for them. I viewed their opinion as something that was really important, and the way they viewed relationships and sexuality, it would have helped the way I viewed my own sexuality and relationships as I was developing my self-concept around sexuality and relationships. That would have been really helpful. It wasn't necessarily detrimental, but it just didn't progress me in any forward movement in that. I think that would have been something that could have helped. It just wasn't talked about. Your relationships weren't talked about, and that was, I think, something that was a trend around other coaches that I felt. There's some stories about certain coaches being together and the lengths at which they hid their relationship. It was sort of a joke among athletes, but when I think about it, obviously when I thought about it then or a few years down the road, especially when I think about it now, how damaging that was to women, young women in college, knowing that about their coaches and knowing that whether they were gay or straight, whether the athletes were gay or straight, seeing grown women hiding a relationship. And there still are role models in our early 20s, and we can project ourselves into our future and see, how would I deal with that? And that's one of the models that we had. I didn't see, I can't say there wasn't, but I didn't see an open same-sex relationship on campus. And I can just think how helpful that would have been for me, and I would have appreciated it. And that's why I think it's so important. At the least, there has to be openness among coaches to their athletes in their language they use when they talk about relationships the athletes may be in. And I can't imagine how difficult it must be for coaches to be honest about relationships they are in that are outside the norm of a heterosexual relationship. But to take that leap that it must be to include that kind of language or even talk about your own personal life I think is so important, not only to gay athletes but to straight athletes, just for them to see how it's a normal thing. It's not anything that's abnormal, and when you don't talk about it, that's what makes it feel abnormal, or it validates a stereotype that is perpetuated in the media. I try myself, I'm a coach, I'm a teacher with high school and middle schoolers, to be as open as I can, as appropriately open as I can when they have questions, and to share parts of my life that are appropriate to share, because I never had that growing up in high school or in college. So I think that's really important. I think a small step for coaches to include the inclusive language of girlfriend or boyfriend, partner, and to also in any way possible share a glimpse of their life with their athletes, which I think it's really important to validate your athlete's wholeness, like their whole life. I felt a lot like all I was a basketball player, and I think if we would have had a more of an open dialogue about what you may be elsewhere, not just your sexuality or relationships, but how you're feeling with academics, with your family, I would have played better. I think sometimes you cut some of those things off, you're going to sacrifice performance, and I think overall, if there's more openness, we'd see progress on the court, and I think we'd see coaches that are happy.